Okay, methods of production. So real main part of the operations unit. G2C, you need to kind of know job production, batch production, flow production. Very common evaluative essay trying to suggest the pros and cons of choosing one of these methods of production. I'm also going to talk about cell production at the end, which is a different take on it. Some businesses use, and it comes a lot up in the IB syllabus and the A-level syllabus. So let's just go through each method of production here. First of all, job production. One product is made from start to finish before moving on to the next one. Okay, so let's just think about that. We whether it's an individual or a group of individuals, we're working on one product. We make that product all the way through to finishing it, and once we've probably sold it, we then go and we work on our next project. So I've got two examples here. We've got construction of a building. So imagine we're making a hospital. We've got a whole team of construction people. We're making the hospital. Once the hospital's finished, we'll then move to another location and start our next contract. But also we could go to something much smaller, like a bespoke wedding dress. Somebody asks you, and as a tailor, I'm making this wedding dress. I'm not going to be working on other dresses in the meantime. I'm going to make that to order. It's going to take me a couple of weeks. Sell that, and then I can make my next one. So that's job production, each individual job, okay? Positives, each item can be different and tailored to customers' needs, which therefore is going to satisfy them better quality. So the hospital, for example, is designed to fit that location where it was. The tailored wedding dress designed to fit the person who it's made for. So each job can be bespoke, okay? Secondly, labour intensive. Labour intensive has advantages and disadvantages, and that's why this can be incorporated into all these essays. Humans are good in terms of flexibility, creativity, and if something's labour intensive, they're going to need to be highly skilled, and if they're highly skilled, they're probably going to enjoy their work and therefore be motivated, okay? So there are pros and cons with this, and when I evaluate this, I'll go through that in a second, but what you've got to think about is, if you understand the benefits of humans versus machines, capital, then you can incorporate that much more easily into these essays. So it's labour intensive, highly skilled staff, they'll be motivated, they'll enjoy their job. However, that's going to result in expensive unit labour costs. If you've got highly skilled staff, they need to be paid more because they've got high skills, but also this is going to be a slow process. You're making one at a time, which means that the cost of production divided by each unit, the unit labour cost, is going to be that much higher. We're going to have to train our staff because they're highly skilled, they're going to need training, so that's training costs. And we're producing very low output, so it's never going to result in that much revenue. It's only relevant when there's low demand, okay? If it's a market where there's high demand, you're not going to use this method of production. Okay, batch production. Groups of identical products are made together from start to finish. So this is the classic sort of bakery example. We make a pile of dough, we divide it up into 12 loaves, we season it, we put it in the oven, we bring it out the oven, we package it, and basically that group of 12 loaves have gone through each stage together. And once we've started that, we're going to work on those 12 loaves. Once it's finished, we then start another batch. And we can change the product between batches, but everything within the batch is identical. So, as I said, specifications can be changed when the next batch starts. So I'm talking about engineering. A lot of the time, certain parts of vehicles are made in batches, but really common is food production and clothing production. Clothing is quite common because you have a t-shirt, you make all the red t-shirts, you make all the medium t-shirts, size and colour, make clothing very relevant to being made in batches. Okay, these are the advantages as opposed to job. But imagine if you're getting a question and the advantages as opposed to flow, they would be different. So that's something to bear in mind with this. So they've got lower unit labour costs than job, as in you're making more output, so all those costs, it's going to be more cost efficient. This is help explaining why. It's more capital intensive than job. Okay, so we're actually able to use more machinery. With more machinery, we get more output, more accuracy. They can work 24/7 and cheaper in the long run. And then also we can have more specialisation. So here, if we've got a small number of staff working on a product from start to finish, they're not really specialised. They're good. They're going to be able to make almost the whole product. When here, we could have staff that specialise in a certain part of the assembly. Evaluation, specialisation, always evaluated by saying it can be boring for staff in the long run. If we're talking it's more capital intensive, we can evaluate the capital expenditure, the money we've got to pay at the start is going to be really expensive in that initial period. And also, with specific to batch here, if we have a problem with one of our loaves of bread, the other 11 loaves of bread are going to be affected as well. So if there's a quality issue, it could affect the whole batch. which therefore is going to be a bigger cost than if we just had one problem. Okay, lastly, flow production. So flow production, used when large quantities are sold to the mass market. So there's always going to be large demand, large output. Products assembled in a continuous process. So just imagine an assembly line. Benefits, large output, lower skilled staff. There's lots of specialization here. Lower skilled staff will be cheaper, and it's capital intensive as well. Cheaper in the long run, accurate, they can work 24/7. Valuation, specialization can be boring for staff. Capital expenditure expensive at the start, so it's exactly the same as the batch ones. However, specific to flow evaluation, if there is a breakdown, delays can be expensive. Imagine if a machine breaks down and we've got this continuous process with such a huge amount of output that if the machine was to break down for one morning, that could be thousands and thousands of units not being produced, which is obviously a huge dent in terms of less revenue. Now, I've also put cell production on here, but without the note. So basically, cell production is where we want to manufacture something that's probably more complex, and we need a team of people to work on a product from start to finish. So it's almost got, it's mass market, but it's got the start to finish element of job production. And we get a team of staff to do it. So Volvo tried doing this and measuring the productivity of getting a team to make a car from start to finish, or using flow production. And they kind of found similar results, really, that they had to give more skills to staff to work as a team to make a whole car, rather than just knowing how to do this component. They had to know how to build a whole car from scratch, which is obviously high training costs, but they enjoyed the work more and therefore had higher productivity. So cell production is when actually you make a cell, which is basically a team, and they make the product from start to finish. High training costs, but better motivation. Okay, is what you really want to think there. They're going to get real job enrichment from seeing their finished product. There's very little job enrichment from just doing a very small task on a big assembly line.